it's Lyndon, and I've got some really great questions that you could ask when you're buying a second-hand saxophone. So buying second-hand saxophones is fantastic. There's some real bargains to be had out there, but you need to be careful, because if you buy the wrong saxophone and then you take it to a repairer, they can ask for more money than what you've actually paid for it just to fix it up. And then when you have got it fixed up, if you haven't bought the right instrument, then it's not worth even what you paid for it plus the repair. You can really make some horrible mistakes out there. So this is a little bit, imagine that you know all about cars and I know nothing about cars, and I say to you, I'm going to go and buy a car. And you say, okay, well, do your research and be careful out there, because there's, you can buy the wrong thing. I say, okay. I come back to you and I say, hey, guess what? I bought a car. And you say to me, what did you buy? And I say to you, a red one. And you say, well, what make is it? And I go, oh, I don't know. I didn't really think to ask. And then you ask, well, how many miles has it got on the mileage? Has it got 100,000 or 50,000 or 10,000? What? I don't know. I didn't think to ask. So you can clearly make some terrible mistakes. First question that I would ask a seller: how long have you owned the instrument? This is because have they just had it for a week? If so, why are they selling it? That's a really good question to ask. Or if you say, how long have you had the instrument? Hopefully the story will be something like, well, I bought it a couple of years ago and I didn't really get along with it. I decided that I wanted to, take up another hobby, do karate instead, and the saxophone went under the bed, and so I've had it for a couple of years. Or they might say, well, I just bought it last week, in which case that's not such a good story for me. I prefer to buy off somebody that's had the saxophone for a good long period of time. That comes into the second question: why are you selling this saxophone? Again, a really good answer would be, well, my daughter had it, we bought it for my daughter 5 years ago. She played it for a year and then she decided to take up another hobby, and it's just been sitting around, and so we thought we'd sell it. So that's a good reason. So number 3, have you owned it from new? So this is really good, because if they say yes, we bought it brand new from the music shop down the road, brilliant, right? So you're getting basically a sax that is brand new but just been played for a year by the daughter. Fantastic, you've got a good idea of the condition that it's going to be in. Whereas if they say no, we bought it second hand, then you don't know how many owners this saxophone is likely to have had. You could have had 15 or 20 owners, and if it has, then that might be okay, but also it might be the case that not everybody's looked after it as nicely as they could have done. Where has it been stored? Question number 4, where has it been stored? This is really significant, because if it's been stored in the house somewhere, that's better than if it's been stored in the loft for a long period of time, or the attic. So if it's been stored in the attic for a long period of time, at least in the UK, it gets really cold, then it gets cold in the winter, warm in the summer, and the saxophone expands and contracts, and it can throw out the regulation, and you're definitely going to need to get the sax checked and adjusted, and that could cost you quite a bit of money. Whereas if they've kept it in an area that had even temperature, there's less chance of that happening. And that comes on to the next question, question number 5. When was it last checked and adjusted or serviced? Right, now, if they say it hasn't ever been checked and adjusted or serviced, then if they've had it for quite a long while, there's a very good chance that you need to take it to your technician and get them to put a light down it and see where all the leaks are and see if it needs adjusting. And if it hasn't been checked and adjusted in a really long time, then the leather pads on a saxophone can harden over time, or they can rot, or they can get mold on them, and they're going to need replacing. And just to give you an idea, if all of the pads on a saxophone need to be replaced by a really good technician, that's going to cost you about £550, somewhere in that region. So it can be really expensive. So clearly, if you go and buy a £200 sax and you have to spend £500 getting it fixed up, at the end of it, you haven't got a saxophone which is worth £700. You've got a saxophone which is worth about £200, even though you spent all of that money. So be careful, right? Ask these questions. It's really good. Has it been repaired? If so, what are the details of that repair? So Again, this just gives you a little bit more history. Maybe it got dropped and dented at school, but we had that taken out, or maybe it has got a bit of damage on it. That's a really good question to ask. It gives you more information. Question number 7 is so super powerful and really, really important. Does it come with the original case and mouthpiece? So especially if you're buying a high-end second-hand saxophone like a Selmer or a Yanagisawa, I love those saxophones, that's why I keep talking about them. If it doesn't have the original case, it's not as valuable as if it does have the original case, because a Selmer case on its own with no saxophone could be worth 300 quid, 400 quid, depends on the age and the particular model, but they're expensive, and it adds value if you have the original case with the instrument. They do get separated because people, gigging musicians, tend to take their saxophones in a gig case, which is a little bit smaller and like fiberglass case, and that original case gets put in the loft, and the saxophone and the case get separated, and then they move home and they leave it in the loft, and for one reason or another the case goes missing. So it's a really good question to ask, and again, more valuable if it's got the original case. It's also worth asking about the mouthpiece, because mouthpieces are expensive, particularly professional mouthpieces. And if it comes with the original, if a good quality sax like a Selmer or Yanagisawa comes with the original case, the original mouthpiece, then that adds value as well. And their mouthpieces are really good quality. If it doesn't have a mouthpiece, that means you've got to go out and buy one or use the one that you've already got, and that's not such an attractive deal. Sometimes saxophones can come with 2 or 3 mouthpieces, so it's really worth looking into what mouthpieces it comes with, and it's a really good question to ask. While you're at it, sometimes when I've bought a second-hand saxophone, somebody said, do you want this pile of books? There's saxophone books, and we've got a music stand here and a saxophone stand and some cleaning equipment. So it's worth asking, does it come with any other bits and pieces, accessories? Personally, I would always ask, if you're buying on the second-hand market, is there any wiggle room in the price? You know, make them an offer. Why not? It's a good question to ask, and easy to forget to do something like that. Question number 9, can I come and see the instrument and play test it? This is the acid test. I would always want to play a saxophone before I purchased it, if I possibly could. Sometimes you can't, and you're going with trust, or you've got enough information to make it okay for you not to play test it, but if you possibly can, go and have a look at the instrument. Don't just buy through the post. Posting saxophones is a bit, carries risk anyway, because they don't always handle it as nicely as they possibly could do. And number 10, are you okay with providing me with a receipt of some sort? Definitely get a receipt for your instrument, because hopefully you've bought it off a lovely, honest person with no reason not to give you a receipt. But sometimes saxophones get stolen, and people that steal the saxophones want to move them on. And then if you end up with a saxophone that has been stolen, the onus is on you. So check the serial number, get a receipt with the serial number on it and the person's name and address, who you're buying it from, so that if there are any problems whatsoever, at least you've got some information about where this saxophone came from. It's also, I've got a stack of receipts that I've bought saxophones over the years, and it's really nice because once you've bought a saxophone, a couple of years can go by, or 5 or 10, in my case 15, 20 years, and you think, when did I buy that? Who did I buy it from? How much did I pay for it? So it's quite good to keep these kind of records. So that's 10 really powerful questions that you should ask before you go out buying a second-hand saxophone. I hope that was useful for you, and if you've got any questions, or if you've got any suggestions about information that you'd like to get about saxophone related stuff, then please, I am your man, very happy to help. My name's Lyndon, I'll see you in the next video.